Hi and welcome to a new video. Today I thought we could have a little chat about the books I read in March and April. I am going to do it a little bit different because it's a lot of rereads, so I won't go into too much details about ratings and stuff because I rarely ever rate my rereads since I've already read them. I will say if I enjoy them more the first time versus the second time, or if it's more times I've read them. But I thought we could start out with some statistics from each month, and I'll start with March. For March, the amount of pages I read 67%, between 300 and 499 pages, and 33% that was above 500 pages. My most read genre that month was romance, and after that dystopian, sport and fantasy are the same amount. It's always different. I use the story graph when I get these kind of statistics, and sometimes a book has several different genres, so even though I only read six books in March, it says a lot of different genres even though it's more genres compared to books. Yeah. But romance was my most read genre that month. My average rating was 4.08 stars. I gave 2 books 3 stars, 1 book 4 stars, 1 book 4.5 stars, and 2 books 5 stars. That was my March stats. There are more stats on Storygraph, but I tend to only watch these because those are the most accurate for me, because I mostly use Goodreads when I log what books I read. So how many pages a day I read and stuff like that is usually inaccurate because I put them in after I've read the entire month mostly. However, I did read 2,914 pages in total. For April, there's a bit more diversity among how thick the books I read was. 7% of the books I read was under 300 pages, 79% was between 300 and 499 pages, and 14% of the books I read was over 500 pages. My most read genres that month was mostly fantasy, that is 8 of the books, then romance, sports and contemporary. My average rating, and here I think it also includes the rating I gave the rereads the first time, because there is more ratings than I actually gave in April, so take this with a grain of salt. My average rating was 4.18 stars. I gave 3 books no rating. I gave 2 books 3.5, 5 books 4 stars, 2 books 4.5, and 2 books 5 stars yet again. And in total I read 6,278 pages. So that's a little statistics. I always find that quite interesting. I haven't done it since coming to Australia because I honestly haven't been bothered, but I thought since it's been like a month since I posted left, I could actually look into it a bit more. But let's get into the 6 books I read in March. I started off the month by reading Morning Star by Pierce Brown, and this is the 3rd book in the Red Rising series. It's like the last book in the OG trilogy. I have not started the rest of the books in that series, and it was a long time. I read in March, honestly, but I remember that it was good. It could have been better. I felt like it dragged somewhat in some places, but that I really liked the ending, and I'm intrigued to read the rest. But that didn't really make an impact, didn't really make a dent, but you know, it's a long series and I'm just on book 3. And I feel like I can't really talk about it because it's book 3 and I don't want to spoil anything. I reread Catching Fire by Suzanne Collins, and by this point we know that Hunger Games and Harry Potter are my go-to books when I want something to listen to at night or when I'm going to sleep, and I want something light, I want something easy, something I know, and therefore Harry Potter and Hunger Games are always my go-to books. Then I started my buddy read, rereading the entire Searching Mass universe except for Crescent City, because I have not read that. I really have to get going with Crescent City as well, but I started my reread of ACOTAR with my friend Moa, and I finished that book in a day because Moa had already read it and I wanted to catch up because I'd been traveling a lot in March. That's also why it's not a lot of books compared to my usual stats. So I started ACOTAR, and this is the first time I've reread it since I read it for the first time. And I started reading the ACOTAR series in 2020. I want to say 2019, 2020. It was one of the first books I read in English, if not the first book. And I remember struggling with it so much the first time I read it. But this time around, it was so easy and I could enjoy it so much more. I'd forgotten a lot of details. It's 6 years since I read it the first time, you know, but I still really enjoyed it. Then I also read A Court of Mist and Fury. This is the second book in the ACOTAR series, and this one I remember that I preferred the most out of the 3 OG ACOTAR books the first time around I read it, but this time I did not. I still enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing the character development, new characters introduced, and the found family. That is a lot in this book, but I did not enjoy it as much as I did the first time around. And these books are getting thicker and thicker the longer we go as well. So the second book is quite heavy, but not a lot happening. And since I love the characters, it's fine for me, but you know, it didn't necessarily have to be that long. And that are the rereads. Then we have 2 more books that wasn't rereads, and the first one is The Wild Card by Stephanie Archer. This is the final installment in the Vancouver Storm series, and this follows Tate Ward, which is the coach, and Jordan. Jordan is the boss's daughter, but a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people know her as the bartender in the Filthy Flamingo, I think the bar's name is, that a lot of the team members go to after like matches. They have all their parties there and a lot of that, and they don't know that the team owner is her father. There's a lot of like estrangement between Jordan and her father, and Jordan's father said to Tate, could you keep an eye out on her since she doesn't really want to talk to me? And then all of a sudden Jordan's father says, I want to sell the team since my daughter don't want it, I'm gonna sell it. And then Jordan is like, we can't do that, that will change every dynamic within the team, people will like get sold off. It sounds so weird, but like their contract and stuff will go out, and then there will be new people and all of the dynamics will change. So Jordan and Tate has to work together to make sure that Jordan gets the team and all of that, and it's a lot of forced proximity, and it's just so good. Then I read Mile High by Liz Humford, and a lot of people say this is the worst in the Windy City series, and I unfortunately have to agree. This was a long book. I think it's over 540 pages, and we're following a flight attendant, and he's not like the captain of the hockey team, but he's like the assistant captain or something, and they have a strict no fraternization between the flight attendants and the hockey team, basically, because they're always on the same flight together and everything surrounding it. So we follow these 2 characters as they have instant attraction. They immediately notice each other, and then after that it's such a good banter. I would say I'm a person who loves good banter. I love having good banter with people, and I really just appreciate it. And they kind of like try to rage bait each other and just make fun of each other while the others are present, and they keep running into each other. They're not supposed to, like, they can be friends, but it's like where does one draw the line, you know? So they keep running into each other, and a lot of stuff happens after that. And that was all of the 6 books I read in March. I just realized that I'd accidentally forgot to add 1 book, but I think it was included in my stats. but I think I forgot to add it on my note on my phone. So if I keep looking down, it's because I'm reading from my phone. I'm sorry. But we're not arriving in April. So I started the month off with reading The Right Move, and that is the second book in the Windy series, City. Here we follows Ryan and Indy, and Ryan is the brother of the female main character in Mile High, and Indy is the best friend of the female main character in Mile High. And this book was so much better than the first one. So I would say read the first one, but don't like turn away from the series just because of that. And the books also get like smaller and smaller the longer in we get. So the first one is really long and then it just keeps becoming smaller. And here it's a lot of different tropes. It's sister's best friend, we have fake dating, and a very closed off male character, and a very bubbly and energetic female main character, which I love. And the fake dating trope comes into when Ryan wants to change his public image a bit. So because he wants his team manager, something along that, I don't really remember, I'm sorry, to change his opinion about him. So because he's so closed off, doesn't really go to like team dinners and stuff like that, and yeah, all that. So he wants this very important person to change his opinion on him. And then all of a sudden he says that he's dating Indy. And Indy is his sister's best friend who is living with him. I know, so much forced proximity. And from there they have to fake date, and it's a lot of blurring boundaries and a lot of stuff happening, and just chef's kiss. Then I read the third one in the Windy City series, and this follows Kai and Miller. Kai is yet again one on the team. Ryan is not on the hockey team that the first book follows. He's a basketball player, whereas Kai is on the team as well, I want to say. And then we have Miller, which is the coach's daughter. Of course. And Miller comes into the picture because Kai is a single dad, and he's struggling a lot with nannies. He doesn't really trust them. He's very protective over his son. And then like Kai's father figure, because his father's not really in the picture, is Miller's dad, the coach. So the coach says, my daughter can take him for the summer. She'll come down to Chicago and she'll be the nanny during the summer, during the games and all that. So yet again, I feel like forced proximity is a part of every single one of these books. And there's a lot of banter, and when they meet, Kai sees Miller with 2 Corona beers and a lot of tattoos, and is like, oh my god, is this the woman who's gonna take care of my child? And then it turns out that she's this like big pastry chef in New York, and she's really struggling with that. She's feeling burnout and doesn't really know what to do with her life, and feel a lot of guilt towards her dad, the coach Emmett, because she feels like she kind of destroyed his life because he was so young when he got her. Then there's 2 rereads. The first one is A Court of Wings and Ruin, and this is the 3rd book in the Aquatar series and the final book in the OG trilogy. There has come more books, and there will become even more in the series. One is released in October and one in January 2027. And I enjoyed this so much more compared to the first time. I think that I just wasn't that interested in the intrigue, in the politics and all that the first time around I read it, whereas now I was more interested in the intrigue and politics compared to the characters. While I still do really love them, I was so invested in the plot, in the politics, and everything around it, and I think I paid more attention to who is who, and you just pick up so much more details rereading it compared to the first time, when you're sitting on all of the like big information and plot twist and all that. The second one was, of course, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. We've been over this so many times now that I'm just gonna mention it and then move forward. After that, I read Play Along, and this is the 4th book in the Windy City series, and this follows Kennedy and Isaiah. Isaiah is he a baseball player? Yeah, they're playing baseball. So we have hockey, baseball, and basketball by this point. A lot of sports. And Kennedy is not the team doctor, but she works for the team doctor, so she like works for the team. And Isaiah has always been flirting with her and like having banter with her, but she's been engaged. And all of a sudden he sees that that ring is not on her finger anymore, and he's trying to shoot his shot. And during a night in Vegas, they get married. They're both incredibly drunk and gets married while drunk. So they both wake up, and this is already like, they know this is gonna be bad. Kennedy is one of the first women in baseball that works for the team, and she's really trying to keep it professional, making sure that women in sports get treated seriously. And she is like losing it. She's like, oh my god, I've ruined all of the chances, I've ruined everything. And therefore they can't just get an annulment for their marriage. They have to keep up this act of being married. And I just love this book. This is one of my 5 stars from April. I think I just saw a lot of me in Kennedy in a lot of different ways. I don't think this book is a masterpiece in like a lot of ways, but I just think I saw myself so much in Kennedy, and a lot of that is with physical touch and how to be around others. I think I can be kind of good at pretending I know, but like the people who really know me knows that I've always struggled a bit with physical touch and physical affection. I like it, I really do, but I just get so awkward because I don't really know how to initiate it, and I don't know how to act when other initiates. It's like friends, family, everything. I'm so bad at hugging people. I'm so bad at like when friends put their head on my shoulder and everything around it. I wish I weren't that way, and it was so nice to see that representation in a woman in a book that also felt like she enjoyed it, but she didn't know how to handle it. She felt awkward, she felt stiff, and people just perceive her as cold because of that. And it was just so nice to actually see that in a book, and I don't think I've ever seen it in a book before. So that's why I gave it 5 stars. Then again, I reread Chamber of Secrets, Harry Potter. I reread that. I listened to it on the plane home from Bali. A lot of these books were in Bali for context, and that's why I had so much time to read. And I listened to most of it on the flight home because I listened to Harry Potter in 2 times speed, which one can have a debate about. I showed it to my friend when I listened to it in 2 times speed, and she was like, are you okay? And after that, I read Release Me. This is the 2nd series in the spin-off series of Shatter Me. I read Shatter Me like 2021. It was a long time ago, and the first book in the spin-off series released either last year or the year before that. It's by Tara Mafi. I'm probably butchering that name, I'm sorry. And I loved the first one. I think I gave it 5 stars, and I really like the second one as well. I can't say that much except that it follows Rosabelle and James again. James is the brother of Aaron Warner. That's all I can say without like spoiling a lot. So we're following kind of these characters and a lot of intrigue, a lot of politics, and it's just really good. I think I really appreciate it because I'm so invested in the characters. I don't really know where Tara Mafi is going with this series, but I'm intrigued to follow it. I think there's a 3rd release, or like the 3rd book in the series is released this year as well, if I'm not incorrect. So I'm really excited to read that one, and I binged this in a day. It's such a bingeable series, like every book in Shatter Me and also like this part of the series. I think this is called the New Republic series. And then I read the 2 last books in the Windy City series, and the first one is Rewind It Back, and this follows Hallie and Rio. Rio is like everyone's sweetheart. He's the only single guy by this point in this found family dynamic, and he's always with the girls, he's joining girls' night, and he's just such a funny and interesting character, and I just always enjoyed his humor. And all of a sudden, his high school sweetheart becomes his neighbor, and he's employing this neighbor without knowing it's Hallie to redo his home. And then all of a sudden he realizes that this is Hallie, and they both ended on terrible terms, like absolutely diabolically terrible terms. So not only is she redoing his entire home, they also have to try to navigate a lot of hurt feelings and a lot of stuff they've just trying to push away and not think about for a long time. And I gave this 5 stars as well. I'm a sucker for a second chance romance. I love the like childhood lovers, high school lovers, and then estranged to rekindling and finding each other, and it's just so good. And there's a lot of like family dynamics in this one as well, because their families were neighbors when they were children as well, and there were a lot of stuff that happened there that impacted their families' opinions on each other. And there's just a lot of trauma, a lot of lore, and I just really like this, and I'm in love with Rio. I just have to say that. And then now I'm gonna take this kind of in bulk because I read this in a different order, but I'm just gonna take it in bulk because this is almost all rereads. So we have the first 3 books of Throne of Glass, and I know that this is kind of a controversial opinion, but I prefer, my preferred reading order, it's fine if you don't prefer it this way, but I think this is the right way, is Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, and then Assassin's Blade. I love Throne of Midnight? No. Throne of Glass. This is the 3rd time I'm reading this book. I read it the first time like 2020. Then I didn't pick it the rest of the series up again, so I had to reread it like 2024, I think. Then I really started getting into Throne of Glass, so that's the 2nd time I reread it, and so this is the 3rd time. And it's just crazy now that I've read like the entire series in 2024, 2025. I sit on all the information and I'm rereading this and I'm like, there's so much hints. There's so much information from like the 2nd page. Like there's a spoiler in the 2nd page, like if you don't know it, you don't know it. You won't pick up on it. But when you know it, I'm like, she's literally spilling the tea on the 2nd page. And I love that. And I love like watching Moa, who I buddy read Avatar and now Throne of Glass with. And I just love seeing her reactions because I'm sitting on all the information, whereas she don't. And then we got into Crown of Midnight, and I just love this book. I think so much happening, there's so much information, but in a good way. I think that some books can be like, kind of like bridging books into other books. And that basically means that there's a lot of information, not a lot of happening, and it's kind of boring. But this book was not at all like that. It's a lot of happening, it's so much information, there's so much heartbreak, oh my god. And I just loved it. And then lastly, Assassin's Blade. I read this 3rd because I feel like it would spoil so many things for you as a reader if you read it as the first book. Like I get why some do it, but I just prefer, like, I read a quote on a like reel or TikTok on something that said that if Selena would have been ready to say her story as the first book, then Sarah J. Maas would have published it first, but she didn't. So that's like when Selena has dropped her lore in Crown of Midnight, that's when you should pick up Assassin's Blade, because that's when she's ready to tell the story, kind of. And there's a lot going on in Assassin's Blade. I think yet again I liked it much more this time than compared to the first time. I still kind of have a hard time with understanding, like there's a love interest in this book, and while I do really see it, I feel like there was like just a switch from where Selena goes from hating him to immediately loving him, and I just find that switch kind of hard to understand. I get it later, but it's just so immediate and makes no sense in my head, really. So I just think I have a hard time understanding that situation and all of the thoughts and feelings around it. After that I read Prisoner of Azkaban. yet again a Harry Potter book. I know I listened to a lot of books this month. And lastly, I read Ghost of the Shadow Market, and this is like book 19, 18, something like that, in the Shadowhunters universe. And this one follows Yam in a different set of novellas, in different time frames, different time periods, a lot of that. And it's just a lot of information, but also a lot of stuff happening, and we get cameos from so many of the characters throughout the years, throughout the books, and I gave this 4.5 stars. I just love Jem, and it's so nice to see him kind of finding himself again and kind of finding his place, finding his love, and everything around it, and all the characters around it, what's happening with them, and seeing some things that you read in other books from another perspective. And yeah, that's kind of everything I can say about this book, because as I said, it's like book 18 or 19 in the series. I haven't picked up a Shadowhunter universe book since like September, October. I remember listening to the last installment in The Dark Artifices when I arrived in Brisbane, and then it took me like a month to continue reading it, and then I finished it, and then I just never picked up a Shadowhunter book for like 7 months. And I don't know why. I just think that I really want to focus on them, and I don't think I've had the brain power to really focus on them until now. So I hope that I'll get into more Shadowhunters universe books in the near future. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, even though it's so many rereads, because I want to reread every Sarah J Maas book before the new ones comes out. And I hope you have a really, really good day. Thank you for watching. Bye.